Listen, last week I started a series. I told you I was going to be talking pulpit politics. Nah, I don't like it that way either. I was going to be talking politics in the pulpit, talking to some folks who are in politics, but they also hold that distinguished honor of being a person of the cloth, a minister, a reverend, an elder, a pastor. You name it, they got it. And today I'm really excited to bring to you Elder Kyle Boyer, who serves on the Treduffin Eastern School Board. Hey, Kyle, and welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. I am well. So grateful that you decided to join me today. But before we get started and start talking business, just want to do a wellness check with you on a scale from 1 to 10 with all that's going on in the pandemic. How are you?
Believe it or not, I actually have to say that I'm a 9. And the only reason I'm going 9 is because, I never want to be so comfortable that I'm not seeking to, do a little bit better or check myself and see how I can improve or whatever. But I found myself prospering even in the middle of pandemic. I can't say that I'm struggling.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. I'm happy to see more and more folks getting to that 8-9 range. Hopefully by March we'll have more 10s. We'll have some solid 10s because I think we're starting to get this normalcy of life in the pandemic for sure.
Yeah.
So jumping right in, what interested you in politics?
So, I really have always had sort of a call to the political realm. I get politics. I studied political science in college. I was running for student council even as a middle schooler and a high schooler. Sort of public leadership has always been something that I felt called to, not just interested in, but really sort of felt a call to it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So with you feel that you was called to politics, how long have you been in ministry?
Yeah, so, I'm a teacher by profession, but a school board position is not full-time, although it could be a full-time position. It's an unpaid, volunteer public service position. Ministry is something else that I sensed a call to very early on, but I accepted a call to the preaching ministry, at least at the age of 16, I believe. And then at the age of 18, delivered my initial sermon and have been preaching ever since.
Wow. That's very interesting for the fact that I remember your initial sermon. But it looks like I can tell, but so what came first, the call into politics or the call into the ministry?
So, if I'm going to wax biblical, the Bible says, at least we get in the story of Jeremiah, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I knew you, I called you, I ordained you. So in terms of recognizing what I was called to first, definitely recognizing a call to preaching because I understood it as a call. It wasn't until I got older and I realized that everything we do in life, really God calls us to things and places and spaces. So that came afterwards.
Awesome. We're going to deviate from the questions I sent for just a little bit to talk about that calling, though. For the fact that you do feel called to politics, what does that feel like? Because I'm sure it's someone out there when you say that, it's like, how can someone feel called? Because last week we had State Rep Joanna McClinton on, and she said the same thing of this is what she does, this is what she felt led to do. So elaborate a little bit about that call to the political side of things.
I'm glad you had her because she's preaching for me at the end of the month, February.
She's a powerhouse. I love her.
She's preaching for Black Heritage. Elaborate on the call. So just the recognizing that whatever we do, we should do it, with this sort of God's prompting us and God directing us and doing it not just for the building of God's kingdom per se, but doing it to advance the things that God is: love, justice, mercy, kindness. So I think when you come into that recognition and you start to see whatever it is that you're doing as a call, as opposed to just a job or whatnot. Now, there are people doing jobs that they're not necessarily called to do. You know you can't sing. You are not called to be no opera singer or called to be at Apollo. But when you come into the recognition, when we come into the recognition of what it is that God has called us to do, then we prosper. And no, I'm not just talking money, but then, we are fulfilled. The gifts and the talents that we have are used most efficiently and effectively. And I sensed early on that I just got political things. It's not necessarily just about running for office, but the political sphere, political spaces, the art of politics and how to get things done. We come into agreement with what it is that God has called us to do, and that's when sort of the magic happens, so to speak.
That's good. I like that because it leads right into this next question of, do you really think preachers should get involved with politics? We know that there's this separation of church and state, and there's a lot of folks who feel that their pastors shouldn't be running for Congress. But here we have the new congressman out of Atlanta who's also the pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, and some are happy and some aren't. So what is your take on preachers and especially pastors who have parishioners really diving into the political realm that heavy?
So I didn't tell you this, but you're 100% in my wheelhouse. My doctoral project is on the competencies that are needed for Black preachers specifically to be effective as both pastors and politicians. So Dr. Warnock, even Joanna McClinton are people that I'm going to be, looking at and considering. But with that being said, yes, if that is what God has called them to do. Now, we have to realize there's politics in everything. If you're a teacher like me, there's school politics. If you're in media, as you are, there's media politics. There's politics in everything. Politics is just about systems and how to make compromises and how to get things done in the middle of systems. But as it relates to the separation of church and state, we take that out of context. The founders of our country, coming from oppressive places where religion and state were so intertwined that you could be oppressed for not agreeing with the religion of the state, said that we're going to come up with a government where the Congress can make no law forcing a state church on people, or the other side of that is the free exercise clause, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, meaning that there's not going to be any ability for Congress to make a state religion, a government religion. And there's also not going to be any ability for Congress to prevent people from practicing their own religion freely. So, right. And that's all that means. It doesn't mean that me as a preacher, one who studies and teaches and preaches a faith, cannot also serve in the public sphere. If the people choose, as they've done, to elect me to something, a school board, that's within their right. They've considered the fact that I'm a preacher and a pastor, and they have decided we want this individual to represent us.
That's great. I love that you brought all of that together. So you said that this is what your doctoral study is. Share a little bit about that, of what made you want to choose to get your doctorate, or write your thesis, I should say, on this particular subject. Like what researches have you come up with thus far?
Yeah, so I'm coming on the end of this semester, coming on the end of classwork, and then the next year about will be writing. But even in that process, I mean, there are a lot of scholars who have studied the Black church. There are a lot of scholars who have studied Black leadership. I have not encountered anything that really specifically hones in on how Black preachers can be successful in politics, despite the fact we've got a tremendous history of Black preachers in politics. Yes. Adam Clayton Powell in New York, the first Black congressman from New York, one of the first Black chairmen of a congressional committee in the House of Representatives, very famous pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church in Harlem. Hiram Rhodes Revels, going way back. He was one of the first Black elected congressmen after the Civil War during Reconstruction. He was a preacher. Louise Williams Bishop in modern times, Floyd Flake, William Gray. I mean, the list goes on and on up to now Raphael Warnock. And I would love, sort of my contributions in ministry to help those who have discerned that they're called to both the pulpit and politics and help them understand how they can do that successfully.
Yeah, for sure. Can't let you say her name and not give her a big shout out. Certainly to Reverend Louise. You can be sure to catch her show right here Sunday mornings on WURD, starting at 7 a.m. She paved the way for me. So go on and give herself a little plug right there. Shout out to you, Reverend Louise. We love you. We love you. So, Elder Boyer, do you have any political aspirations past school board?
So I ran for state senate in the last cycle. I was a candidate in the Democratic primary for state senate and in Chester County in the 19th senatorial district. And I did not win, which was okay. I kind of knew the direction the race was going to go by the time it was the end of the race. But we'll see. I felt, again, called to run in that race. I felt like it was the right time and the right opportunity. And should the right opportunity present itself, I would pray about it and take it on. I don't have a map or, like a checklist, like I got to run for this. There are many ways to be involved in politics, but I do know that political office is something that I can do. And that if I feel like it's the right opportunity, I'll take it to try to advance some of the things I really care deeply about.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if you had to pick one for the rest of your life, politics or the pulpit, would you be able to choose one?
Oh yeah, definitely the pulpit. I mean, I don't. Yeah, I'm sure you knew I was going to say this. I don't like the separation between the two of them per se. Because whatever God has called you to, He's called you to. But if I had to only pick one, ecclesiastical, that is church ministry, is something that I know I'll always do. I won't always be a pastor. I will retire at some point, but I will always be a preacher. Electoral politics, you get voted in, you get voted out. But that's the thing about, the God we preach about. You can't vote God in. You can't impeach God. He's just God. So if I feel like I'm called to be a representative of His and to, in some way or another, speak His truth and teach His truth, I will definitely latch on to doing that forever.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And excuse me for calling you Elder Boyer. Y'all, I've known him for quite a long time, so it's quite a habit. But Pastor Boyer,
please. Oh, heck no. I don't care about stuff like
please let the folks know, how can they connect with you beyond today's interview? If they want to follow your ministry, if they want to support you in your next political endeavor, where can they find you at?
Oh, yeah. So on just about all social medias, I'm either Kyle Boyer, like I am on Twitter, or, on Facebook or Instagram, Kyle J. Boyer. You go on Amazon.com, you can see some of the things that I've written. I'm fairly active in expression. We'll be looking to get into some more, local journalism writing kind of stuff. So I'm pretty easy to find that way. And I try to be responsive and, interact with those who connect with me.
Yeah, before I let you go, definitely slipped my mind, but do plug your books. Let them know about the books that you have written and where they can purchase those as well.
Yeah, so my writing sort of tells the story of the various sectors that I'm called to. The first piece that I published was called Reflections for the Call, a devotional for young preachers. And, that's cool, but it's for a little bit more of a niche audience. But the second work, which came out during COVID in August, is called The Prince, the Priests, and the Prophets, the Need for Prophetic Leadership in America. And in that book, I make the case that we need to elevate the prophetic voices, the voices that speak truth to power, speak truth to those who are in the prince realm, government, speak truth to those who are in the priest realm, the church, the faith sector.
That's amazing. And before I let you go, just give a word of encouragement to someone that may be like you. They may be young and they may be listening and feel the call to both the pulpit and politics, and they just don't know what to do.
Start where you are. Look where you are, start where you are, act where you are. Wherever you are, there is something that you can do, whether that's as neighborhood block captain, you have a local school board, you have either city council or township supervisors or borough council. Wherever you are, there is something that you can do. And maybe it's not running for office at first. Maybe it's just joining a board or a commission. But reach out, be active, help the right people get elected, volunteer, make your voice heard, and start right where you are.
Well, Kyle, certainly want to thank you again for coming on to the show. Y'all be sure to follow him. Again, you can find him on all social platforms at Kyle Boyer, or type in the J, Kyle J. Boyer. But be sure that you support this young brother, support his ministry, support his political careers, go buy his books.
Do that.
Because he is just an amazing guy. Y'all know I don't bring people on here that I wouldn't want to share with you. So make sure you support my friend, my brother. And again, thank you so much for joining me today.